In the lifetime of this channel, I've tiptoed around the fact that there's a global pandemic going on. I don't think anyone needs any more reminders that we're living in trying times. So, I try to not really address it, even though it's kind of the reason that this channel exists. But you know what's a very fun pastime for staying home? Board games. But who names these things? Trivial Pursuit has nothing to do with chasing somebody down 3 roads. Monopoly is upside down and an oxymoron. How can something be one and many? And Clue is singular. I need 3 clues. At least. I don't like it. Who names these things? I don't know. And I don't like those games very much with their fancy polymer plastic pieces. I want a nice wooden black and white board game. Like chess or backgammon. But now I'm haunted by the question that haunts me for my entire life. Where do those words come from? Who named these ancient games? The word chess comes from the Old French échesse, which comes from the Arabic shah, which comes from the Persian shah. The name of the game in French was échesse, and the name of the game in Arabic was shah, but the name shah in Persian means king. That comes from the Old Persian shaithi. That's my final answer. But here's the cuneiform. Any chance I have to put a cuneiform on screen, I'm going to do it. So, it makes sense why it's named king in Persian, because the point of the game is to get your opponent's king. Similarly, checkmate comes from the Persian shahmat, which means the king is helpless. I've always heard the king's dead, but the Persian means the king is helpless, and the dead comes in from Arabic. That exact same spelling, mat, in Arabic means died. So when an Arabic says checkmate, they think that they're saying, or I should say, when an Arabic says shahmat, they think that that means the king is dead. It's interesting that those 2 words come from unrelated language families and mean very similar things, just with a slightly darker connotation. I could probably go on about the origin of every piece on the chessboard, but I don't want this video to take 20 minutes. So, let me know if you want me to make a video about the origin and history of the names of the pieces on a chessboard. I think that'd be fun. Can you hear that wind? Oh. Moving on, the origin of the word backgammon. Backgammon only goes back to the Middle English backgammon in like 1640. And the origin is pretty disputed because it's not very clear. The best guess that we have is that the last half means game, gammon meant game back then, and then the first part means back, like to send your pieces back. So that's about the firmest proposed etymology. I didn't really find any others. What's interesting, but also a little unfortunate for our etymology, is that in other places it's called a bunch of different things. The concept of a race game goes all the way back to to the city of in Mesopotamia. There's a board game that was dug up by archaeologists, and it's most likely a race game, a lot like backgammon. It's obviously different, like look at the board, it's not the same, but the concept is the same, rolling dice and moving pieces. However, a game with the same rules as our modern day backgammon only dates back to Byzantium, where it was called tabli, meaning table. That concept of it being named table still exists in the Levant today, where it's called tauli or sheshbesh. Sheshbesh is a kind of a compound word. Shesh is Arabic or Hebrew for 6, and besh is Turkish for 5. So if someone rolls a 6 and a 5, a pretty good roll in a game of backgammon, they'll scream, sheshbesh! It's like Yahtzee. I love it because it's like almost a unification of the Middle East. You've got your Semitic, you've got your Turkic. Oh, fusion dance. I love that. Closing out with my personal 4th grade favorite, Mancala. Mancala comes from the Arabic Minkala, which is kind of just the name of race games in general. And that comes from the Arabic root Nkala. I don't know how they pronounce those. But that means to move. Now, there's a claim that I've heard before in my life that Mancala dates back to ancient Egypt. What's interesting is once I dug into it, I uncovered a scandal in the archaeology fandom that I am excited to relay to you. I'm going to start off by saying that the oldest known forms of the game that are just like Mancala today with the same rules and the same board they only date back to Ethiopia in like the 6th or 7th centuries AD. Where this Egyptian claim comes from is from a 1909 paper by a man named Henry Parker, no relation to the Parker brothers, who claimed that in temples in ancient Egypt you could look up in the roofs and you could find game boards. And he described these boards and how many there were, and he claimed that this made the game of Mancala 1,600 to 2,500 years old. Okay? That's a bold claim. What's interesting is when other archaeologists went over to try to find these boards, they weren't there. And in fact, well, some of them were there. Okay? So he not only inflated the number of boards that he saw, which is already kind of sketch, he also totally didn't realize that these game boards looked nothing like modern Mancala. They looked like Roman board games that we knew existed. And those temples definitely existed in Roman land for hundreds of years, so it would make sense. There were even some that looked Coptic, which is even later. So, sorry, Henry, you lied to us. And I believed it as a child. Hope you sleep good after that. Thank you for watching Link King. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and have a great day. Bye-bye.